Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sparking Change with Gigi. I'm your host, Giovanna Tardarone, and today we're going to be talking about how can we become the architect of our lives. And from my journey, I understand that it's all about our belief system. That's where it all begins. So I have a dear friend here, Reverend J.J. Manuel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Such a pleasure to have you here. And, we both went down this journey of learning how to transform our beliefs at the very core level. And I'm so grateful that you're here with me because your story is one that I believe the world needs to hear. And, how did you do it? And I know that you were in your past profession, an architect. You started there.
Yeah.
And then you moved over. So tell us about your journey and how did this all begin for you?
Wow, that's a loaded question. How did this all begin for you? Well, I'd like to say thank you to my parents. They're probably the biggest reason as to why I am
of course
where I am. I've been able to accomplish the things and just learn and grow with the trial and tribulations that life has to offer, right? But my parents, I would start there, right? It's we're gonna tell a story. Let's tell the whole thing, right? Let's build it up so that we can build ourselves up in our own stories, right? My parents, they're from the Dominican Republic. They immigrated here right before I was born. And my father, he had a background he was a medical doctor. So he had a background in medicine. His father as well was also a medical doctor as well in Santo Domingo. So, that's kind of like the family thing. My mother, she was a creative, full-on creative, was a designer and was going to school for architecture, right? And, they both let go and had to let go of their careers when they came over to the States, not knowing English, not knowing the language. They had to figure it out, like a lot of us have to do it. But I had those two great parents. I had two great siblings as well. And my life, at least my childhood, I would say was tough, mainly because I was huge. I grew up pretty morbidly obese. I weighed, by the time I was 9, I was like weighing 225 pounds, 230 pounds. So how did I cope with that? I cope with that by just kind of making fun of myself. Right, I watched a lot of TV and found wrestling fun. Found a lot of comedians that would self-efface and talk about themselves to fit in and make jokes. So I did that and just wanted to overachieve. Right, for me it was it was the best way, for one, to get your parents' attention. Secondly, when you're doing all the good things as a kid, you also get benefits from doing so, right?
Of course.
So, but just again, in my parents' shadows, my dad had got into sales very early on. I've always remembered him working in the sales industry. And my mother, again, she never let go of that creative juice. She never let go of that knack that she had. And she would design Christmas trees and work for Christmas tree organizations. She would make clothes by hand or with her sewing machine. And she was just very big on transforming things. Very big on, you've been there that one time where you're driving out and about and you see this dresser that's on the curb, or you see this side table that's on the curb, and you know what? I can either use that or I can give it to somebody else. I can take it to, instead of it being thrown away, I can take it to Salvation Army or something like that. And my mother would just love to transform things and bring them back to life. So it's kind of like a theme in my life. And so I went to college. Even before college, I was studious, pretty good with grades, always in honors classes. I was blessed to have gone through a program when I was 11, 12, and 13, summer school, actually summer at a university. So I was taking college classes as a preteen. And it got me to the field of engineering. in the field of design and the field of
Okay.
architecture. So kind of following in my mother's footsteps. And it was there where I had a lot of fun. Like I was lucky to have gotten a job kind of right out of the gate. Maybe a year after I graduated
Mhm.
college, I was working at a design build firm in Manhattan. And we did a lot of high-end work. We were a design build firm, so it gave us the opportunity to both be the architect and the construction manager and the general contractor for each job that we did. So again, that unique perspective allowed me to see things from start to finish.
Right.
Designing the change. If it was a massive renovation, just doing the work to redesign it, upgrade it, level it up, and manage the actual construction. Bring in the subcontractors and do that. And that's where my career started.
Wow.
As an architect, and eventually got into business development as well. But it was there where I learned to see something from beginning to finish. I knew the value of presenting, which is something that I've kind of held on to as my career progresses. Presenting information to people in such a way where they can understand the concept, they can understand why things are being done the way they're done, and just leading somebody to, again, just the step-by-step process of what the construction plan looks like, what it takes
You
to
had the vision ahead of time before anyone else did, and you put it on paper.
That's what an architect does.
Yeah.
Architects have visions, right?
Yes.
I'm going to break this down because we're going to be talking about this and how it parlays to energy work and consciousness
Yes.
and spiritual development. Is that we're all visionaries. We're all the architects of our own life, right?
Yes.
And as an architect, the first job of an architect is to envision this new reality, envision this finished building, right?
Correct.
What are all the details? And how do those details translate onto a plan? Like, how do you take this image in your brain that's not physical, right? Something that's not real, right? For the
Right.
sake of it's not tangible and physical in nature. You can take this mental and this spiritual imagination and put it on a piece of paper, so much so where other people can then take these instructions and then actually build something.
So
Right?
you're in essence using your imagination.
That's what we're all doing. It's using
We're
our
using the
imagination.
imagination to create, to begin the process of creation
Yes. Every single thing,
in this world.
the chair you're on, the lamp behind you, the room you're in, the microphones we're using, the computers we're on right now. It was first in somebody's mind.
That's right.
Every single thing by design has been built first mentally.
That's right.
And then brought into the material world. Right? So it's a simple premise that you can take from the world of design and construction, and it plays out in all things: goal setting, business development plans, right? So I was just kind of going back on my life. Okay, well, I left the industry, and I'll probably go into details of why that happened later. And what I found was, okay, well, I can design plans, right? So God gave me these experiences so that I know that we can have an imagination, we can put it on paper, and we can actually manage the construction over time.
Yeah. And everyone has the imagination. It's a gift that we all received.
Yeah.
And we use it for so many things. We don't even realize it. But we use it for so many things, and we can use it to create the life we want.
Yeah. I'm saying if we're already using it to create the life we have right now, whether it's something that we're proud about or not, like it is what it is. In some way, shape, or form, you co-created the experience that you're currently living through. Right. And if you want to see a change, it has to come from within you. You can't really lean on it coming from without you. It has to come from within and be expressed out. Right. So
that's so beautiful because, I will say that as an educator, that was never taught to me. And I went to school for many years. I'm going to tell you, I have 2 masters. I went to school for many years, and no one told me that it really starts from the inside out. And what I love, and I recently said this to someone, and it just sticks in my head, that it's time for us to learn from the inside out. Education and everything we learn is great, but that was all from the outside in. It's time to pay attention to what's coming in so we can bring it out. And I know for me, my own personal experience, what a difference my life has been because I've been working from my heart to bring it out to the world. I've been listening to, my desires, my heart, and where I can help others without feeling fear, worry, doubt. Because I think that's where, when we're too much listening to the outside, we kind of bring that in, and then we start to get worried. But anyway, so let's go on track. Let's stay on track.
Yeah, you and I can speak for hours on this topic. Yes. For sure. And so that was the first part of my life. And look, again, I'm not perfect, right? I'm just a regular person, right? Child of two immigrant parents, felt the need to become this overachiever. My siblings also kind of, tag team on that, like in their own life. All of us did pretty well in school. And again, we didn't necessarily live a perfect life, to call ourselves poverty or, very lower middle class. That would be pretty much accurate of our experience. We grew up in North Jersey. And again, just being in North New York and New Jersey in that area also provided us with, a different type of lifestyle and insight, right, about how the world works. Consistently going back to Dominican Republic and having a whole different experience of life over there, where my parents grew up, and just going there constantly. Again, it opened up our eyes to different versions of the world, right? And we found that growing up, a lot of my friends, since some of them stayed in town, they never really ventured outside of the city, let alone the state or the country. We just had a different perspective about what's possible and what's not possible, what people are going through, right? So you're going through life. In college, I joined a Latino fraternity, and that's when I started to ask a lot of questions. I'm like, okay, well, hold on. I started learning the real history about the indigenous people in the United States, the indigenous people and the history just all over Central and South America. I'm like, well, I didn't learn this in the world history. I didn't learn this in social studies. Like, more specifically, they say that sometimes history is written by the victor, So when I started to learn things from just from outside of the country, it started to change my perspective on what's possible. Maybe there's something that is happening here that has held people back from a lot of information. And then going to Europe, I studied in Italy. I studied abroad in Italy, and it was my last semester as an architectural student. And we were designing churches, and we were researching churches and learning about the history of government, the history of finance, all these things. Again, just added to different perspectives. So I was very open to things. I read the books. I had a lot of great mentors. Got into personal development in 2012, 2013, very heavily. It didn't pay me to read a book before. I hated reading. And I found myself just diving deep and finishing these books. I built a habit of or a nice goal. I want to read 12 books a year. And I just did a few years back to back to back. Now I'm at 20 certain books, 30 books, 40 books, depending on how saucy I'm feeling or how eager I'm feeling to read or learn any given year. But again, I was open, and it was in that journey. I was actually let go of the architectural job that I had at the time in Manhattan. Coincidentally, my father was let go from his job as well at the same time. Different, obviously totally different industry. But it was a challenge, especially because it happened back to back. Forced to move out, get a new place, car was repossessed, all the things that go along with that. And then we found out that my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was a pretty dark 6 months. I blew up in weight. I gained a lot of weight. I was staying at home often with her, just helping her get around the house. And, I realized that I just had to slow down because I was moving light speed. I was building a business on the side of working at the architectural company. I'm sure I was getting distracted too, but it just blew up in my face. And after about 6 months, I'm like, all right, look, I've read books. I've had great mentors. I'm over here just playing small, you know? And it was about that time where I read the book Biology of Belief. I'm not sure if you
Mm.
read the Biology of Belief.
There it is, right
It's just,
here. This
wow.
is the magic book, everyone.
The fact that you have it right there is, again, it's a big testament about what the book is about and
Yeah.
the impact that it's had on a lot of people. And so I read the book, and having had um, a pretty extensive, let's say, school career in science, learning about engineering, science, biology, chemistry,
Right.
English classes. Like, okay, I could understand where he was coming from, right? I wasn't really. Sometimes people get kind of drowned out in like the science behind his story, but I could understand it. I'm like, wow, this guy is like the godfather of stem cell research in this country, and he talked about the fact that our perception, like what we believe is true about ourselves, what we believe is true about other people, and what we believe is true about the world around us, is in some way, shape, or form like aiding in the expression or non-expression of genes in our body, right? So I'm like, okay, what
Mm-hmm.
you're telling me is that my perception of myself in the environment is actually having different parts of my body activate. It's having different. I'm like communicating this to my organs. Like my cells are actually alive, and they can be programmed, right? I'm like, okay, that changes the conversation for me.
Mm-hmm.
And um, around that time too, I had a good friend of mine who was into Reiki healing. Had never heard about Reiki. Had a session with him, kind of opened things up. So it's like the combination of that and reading the book. At the end of the book, Bruce Lipton talks about Psych K, which
Mm-hmm.
is a shortened version for psychological kinesiology. And then Psych K is essentially, if you just break down those two words, psychological kinesiology, it's the study of the mind and study the mental and emotional capacity. And the study kinesiology is the study of body mechanics. So we're essentially working with the body, communicating through biofeedback with the body to achieve yes or no questions, understanding what the subconscious mind believes is true or not,
Mm-hmm.
and we learn energy balancing techniques that allow us to reprogram, take that left hemisphere of the brain and the right hemisphere of the brain to align to a specific belief, right? Shifting our perception at the subconscious level, and then potentially helping us to shift our habits and our behaviors over time. And that's when everything changed, right? That's
Oh,
that's when I learned there was a lot more to this world.
wow. And just like your mom, I'm also a cancer survivor. And I tell you, if it wasn't for this work, I'm so grateful because I had to shift my perception of every experience that I went through in order to understand in at a very deep level of what's going on. And I was open to receiving, right? And then that's the whole idea, is that are you open to receiving that there's a way that you can change the way you see the world. And if you're ready to accept that there is a way, then I believe you begin to open up doors. And that's kind of like what happened to me. Like, okay, I'm ready for change. I'm ready for change. And when I made that commitment, my doors started opening up. And I was just amazed,
Mhm.
amazed at this process, that we call Psyche, to understand how in less than 7 minutes, if that much, you can really reprogram a belief and install a new belief. And I say it's like a computer, right? It's like a computer. We put all these programs in, Microsoft Word, Excel, whatever, and they get antiquated. They work very slow. They don't, we need to upgrade those systems, those programs. And this is the same thing with our belief system, is that some of our programs are old. They don't um, empower us. In fact, they stop us from doing things that we want to do because we have this notion, this belief that it's bad, it's not good, or who do we think we are? But again, we can go all day with this, but it is a beautiful process that we both were blessed to receive and use to help our clients.
Yeah, for sure. It's, again, that you are your own best client in this field, right? Like, again, it's healing, transformation, overcoming just grief, traumatic experiences, whether it's through therapy, whether it's through holistic healing or any other modality. Like, it's not something that you can have somebody else do for you. You have to go through the work. You have to go through it yourself, right? You can work with people for sure. You can have people facilitate you, mentor you, coach you. At the end of the day, all healing happens with you, right? I don't prescribe to the idea that I'm a healer, right? Because again,
Right.
I just help other people activate their own ability to heal.
That's what we do. Yeah.
And you know that you subscribe to that idea and that thesis. And this is something that, again, for 2016, 2017, 2018, where I was just learning, I was reprogramming, identifying, getting clear about some limiting beliefs that I had from my childhood, like from the fact that I was bullied a lot because of my weight. Like, I'm like, okay, there's obviously a lot there, right? And I had a friend of mine who had a fear of flying, and it was just kind of like came out of nowhere because he was flying before that, right? So it just came out of nowhere, and he was a hypnotist. So I was just surprised that a hypnotist could have this challenge. And long story short, him and we became facilitators of Psyche. I went and did my basic. I did the professional, which is now known as the master's. Eventually, I ended up doing the advanced and the divine integration as well. But as we were doing it, as we were training, as we were working with each other, we also started to work on emotions. Now, I'm not sure if you ever heard of the emotion code.
I am certified in the emotion code as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. So emotion code, body code, you got body talk, EFT, TFT tapping, started dabbling into some hypnosis as well with him. And we realized that, sometimes it's a lot more than just beliefs. It's also the emotions that go along with those.
Yes.
And as Dr. Joe Dispenza shares, it's, these emotions have the potential and the probability that they can turn into moods. And, or trapped emotions can turn into attitudes. And eventually, if you're in this attitude for a long time, they become full-on temperaments. It's almost like the temperature, right?
Yeah.
We've all seen that person that's kind of holding on to something that happened years ago or months ago,
Yes.
and they're still angry about it, and they're like wearing it.
Yeah.
That's a temperament, right? And what's happening now is that you can build a full-on persona, a full-on personality with all these beliefs and emotions from things that might have happened to you, might have occurred to you in the past. It definitely was the case for me. And
Right.
when I realized, okay, well, I can shift these emotions too. I can deactivate the electrical charge behind these emotions, right? So that I can actually look at my past memories, and instead of being afraid of them or like hide them or suppress them or oppress them, I can face them head on, and I can see the lessons that are on the other side of that experience, right?
Right.
And again, when I started to do that work, that's when things started to move. That's when things started to change. I would say 2017 was when I was really focusing on the emotions, on the emotional side of healing myself and doing energy work. And again, everything shifted. I came down here to Florida for a 5-day vacation. That vacation's going on a little bit more than 7 years now.
I want you to hold on to that. We're going to
Yeah.
come right back and take a short commercial break, and we want to hear about this long vacation that you're on. We'll be right back, everyone.
Now, the vast majority, approximately 95% of the people of all countries, go around and around without aim or purpose. They drift with the circumstances of life, good or bad.
A drifter is one who permits himself to be influenced and controlled by circumstances outside of his own mind.
Whereas the successful individuals create their own circumstances and ride them to victory.
When you're on purpose, you're living on purpose. You will never quit if you have a real purpose.
A burning desire to be and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. But what I have done has been recorded, it's been tested, it's being taken to a free world, and it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born.
And it's going to benefit millions of people who are not yet born. We're some of those people. That we're spreading this to the world. As your awareness grows, the doubt is gone, so that you can manifest whatever it is your heart desires. Isn't that beautiful?
So something tells me this trip to Florida, you might have just found your purpose. Since it's a 7-year venture, right?
It's a 7-year venture. And I'd say probably found it before. I felt after doing all these shifts, going through all this change, I got more sensitive to things. I started to tap into the noise a little bit more. I'm like, oh, okay, this is currency that we're living. It's like this energy that we're living in. So it was refreshing for this 5-day vacation. Again, it was an easy decision. A lot of family down here in Florida, a lot of first cousins here, my uncles, aunts, my grandmother. Okay. My mother had just moved down. So it wasn't a hard decision to make, but again, I didn't anticipate moving at all. I didn't even, it wasn't even an idea. And, when you're on purpose, things just work out, right? So yes. I had a job offering within about a week or so, maybe a little bit less than 2 weeks. My father was looking for a place to move in, another place to move into in New Jersey. And I'm like, hey, you can take over the apartment that I'm leaving. And it just he didn't have to go through figuring out where to go. He already had, the furniture was already there. He didn't have to deal with this first month or last month that you typically go to when you're moving from one place to the next. So,
and you didn't have to worry about moving out.
Everything just aligned. Everything just aligned.
I love it.
And that's when I knew, okay, I made the right decision, right? That was confirmation for me. And yeah, since I've been down here, it's just like, okay, well, I get to recreate myself. I get to become the architect of this life. I get to renovate my life, right? And again, it started with transforming the beliefs, transforming the emotions. And then that's where I started to dive deeper into energy work, dive deeper into the study of metaphysics, right? Studying different types of religions, different paths of spirituality, and really lean into the divine aspect of things, and got involved with consciousness events. So one of the first things I did was get involved with the Holistic Chamber of Commerce here in Boca Raton. Became a co-producer of Mind Body Expo, which is a health and wellness expo. We had about 3,500 people come to our event in 2019. And, it was like event after event, meeting amazing people, meeting amazing mentors. And I had the opportunity to work on myself. I didn't have all those distractions that I had kind of built for my life in New Jersey, right? Being super social, being involved with a lot of people. And I was able to just take more time for myself and relax more. And that's when everything shifted. That's when, became a health and life coach, started working in sales more directly. I would say one of the parts of becoming an architect of your life is realizing that things are not going to be raisins and butterflies, right? Things are going to be tough, right? And when you're building something, let's say as a general contractor, that there's going to be challenges. There's going to be problems on site. You're going to find something that you didn't anticipate before, or you find that you install something and it's not the right size, and you have to take it out, and you have to you're going to have to plan for these type of setbacks. You're going to have to plan for things happening longer than expected. You're going to have to plan for maybe not having enough budget for something, right? And it has to be you have to prepare, right? Like somebody who actually wants to transform or become somebody else. Half of the battle is preparing for the actual reality. Like, if you're thinking about moving or redesigning your home, like, okay, start to plan it. Like, what would you redesign it with? Like, what would be the new design? right? Most people
Mhm.
don't prepare for the vision they have of themselves. They just expect it to happen. So that's something I learned down here. It's like I had the opportunity to shift just my career and what I do. And I got very heavily into business development, and that's what I do now. I help businesses that are in the 6, 7 figure a month, help them scale into businesses that eventually get bought out, right? And that it involves doing a lot, but really getting involved in the sales and marketing operations of a company, right? Whether that be
Yeah.
designing funnels, presentations, pitch decks for investors, hiring salespeople, training salespeople, figuring out resonance with ads, and creating some really good advertisements and promotional materials, designing campaigns. It's really understanding and auditing the business as an energetic, vehicle, uh,
Sure.
right? Businesses don't have consciousness, but the people do, right? And the people of the business develop the culture of the organization. So the beliefs and the emotions of the people at organizations have a direct effect on the results of those businesses. So it's both people and process. And when you can
Mhm.
kind of audit that process, understand how the energy is currently working in the business, what's working, what's going well, what's not working, what's going well, you can then design a new plan. You can
Right.
design the renovation of that business. And it's going to take just like any other thing in life, right? It's having the imagination to come up with a new vision, detailing what that vision is going to look like, so much so that you can develop a blueprint for it, considering how much it's going to take, like what you're willing to give
Yeah.
of yourself to achieve those goals or to achieve this new project or this new goal. And then doing the work, having the discipline and the consistency to show up every day, do the thing that needs to happen in order for that end result to be.
I love that. Yeah. It's a commitment to yourself that you're making essentially, right? Because you are in charge of your life. And I love the analogy that you chose about, you're building a new home, and there's a lot of things that you may not anticipate, although there's some type of knowledge that you may, like my husband, I remember he bought property that he had no idea below, the grass was like solid rock, and he had to call in people to come in and blast the rock in order to build a home on top of it. And all of that, you know again, takes the commitment. It takes a commitment, like not giving up. And that's the same way with our life. We hit these blocks, and it's a commitment that we need to make to ourselves, that if you are willing to be disciplined, right? Discipline yourself is a big key. And I study Napoleon Hill, and one of his principles, I mean, discipline is probably one of the top ways that we can create the change, right? Because we have to change the habits
Yeah.
that we're so used to doing on a daily basis. Like, part of what Bruce Lipton talks about. And guys, if you have not read this book, I mean, this is real stuff.
Yep.
Understanding the power of your subconscious mind.
That right
you
there.
know we live 95% of what we do. It comes from the programs that are in our subconscious mind. And if we can just understand that and know that if there's something we don't like in our lives, it's first we have to change it from the inside, and then we can see the results on the outside.
Yeah, for sure. It's the universe is mental. However you want to slice it or dice it. Everything starts spiritual, right? Spirit animates everything. That imagination that we talked about, that's all mental, right?
Yeah.
And in order for everything to be physical, it has to be mental first, right? Again. So what I learned, and I like to kind of, it's something I usually show in a PowerPoint presentation. It's what I draw out on a blackboard whenever I'm having this conversation. So I'm going to share with you here now, is that your gifts exist right here in the present, right? Like the future vision of yourself exists right here in the present, right? And we see reality not as it is, but we see reality as we are,
Right.
right? And so that's the catch-22, is that the reality, we're co-creating this reality. Most people don't realize that they already are, right? And they want to make a change. So when they want to change, they feel like they have to do things externally, things outside of themselves in order to get there. But the real game of reality is within. So how does that show up, right? We have all these levels of mind. We have the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, unconscious mind. We have super conscious mind, and a divine mind, right? The mind of all that is. And the divine is more so an impersonal experience, right? It's the I am, right? The I am is the highest frequency. It's anything that follows what I am tends to become true, especially if it's sustained, that frequency is sustained over time with an emotional frequency or emotion behind it, right? So our beliefs, our emotions, our instincts, we mentioned attitudes, we mentioned moods and temperaments, right? Our imagination, obviously, what we associate to, what we disassociate from, these transgenerational factors that come from our lineage, right? Our parents and their parents and their parents, all those instincts encoded into our DNA. Any fears, any doubts, thoughts that come in, the frequency of the thoughts that come in, what we attach ourselves to. And some would even argue like extraterrestrial energy, things that are coming from outside of you, right? Things that can be from another person, that could be from different, different energies, right?
Right.
But these things, they create we develop a filter of how we see reality through all of that psychological phenomenon. And it is the filter that we use to go and act, to react, and to proact. Right? And these actions that we're taking over time, if you do the same thing over time, they become behaviors.
Right.
And these behaviors, if you're exhibiting this behavior over time, they become habits. Right? And our habits lead to the results. Our habits are the things that we do every day, sometimes without even thinking about them.
Right.
Right? They were just programmed. They're just subconscious. They're automatic. We don't think about them. Breathing. Most people don't think about how to breathe every day. You're never having to think about how to digest your food. Your body just does it. Right? It's designed to do it, right? These habits over time create your results. And your results become your reality. Right? So if we want to kind of break this loop of creating the same reality over and over and over again and experience the same reality over and over again, the key is to shift our perception. And that starts with overcoming limiting beliefs, right?
And we always get right back to the
Right
core.
back.
What's the core? What's the underlining cause of many things in our lives? Is what are we believing? What perception do we have of the world outside of us?
Yeah.
And that really stems from what's going on inside of us and our experiences. And what a beautiful thing to learn that we actually have the tools to change that. To say, some people say, oh, that person, they did so much in their life, they sacrificed so much to give to their family. Here's what I have to say. Why are we sacrificing? We don't have to sacrifice. We have to understand, why do we feel that way? And what have we been through? What experiences can we, change the perception of, that will allow us to see things a little bit differently? I truly am. I am truly the black sheep of the family right now.
Yeah. Same here.
And I say that because, I'm starting to think so differently. And really, like, there's not much connection to what I'm saying, but the truth of the matter is, be open to hearing this. I was open to hearing how we can really change from the inside out to get what we want in life. It may take a little time, because now we're like babies, like I'm a baby now that I understand that energy within us can be shifted.
Yeah.
Wow. That to me was, even using my imagination. The imagination we learned in preschool, we were able to, use the imagination to be creative and be, Wonder Woman and all that. But now we literally can use this imagination to co-create, that house that we want,
Yeah.
that life that we want. And why don't we believe that's possible? It's because there's a belief that we were taught that it cannot happen. And, once we learn this work with energy work, you can shift these beliefs and you can begin to see life differently. So tell me your experience with Psyche and your clients and how you help them.
Psyche, my clients, how I've helped them. So again, I first started, it was me and my friend who was hypnotist who had developed this fear of flying. So we use Psyche to a certain extent. Again, we were both actively, literally every day muscle testing, every day doing energy balances for ourselves. We went from a very poverty mindset to an abundant mindset. A lot of things changed, but more specifically for, let's say, our clients, it's Chris went from having this fear of flying, like debilitating. He would go into shock just being at the airport. His stomach would turn, looking up and seeing planes while he was driving. And after a good number of sessions, I was able to actually get on a flight with him and make sure that he got to the destination that he dreamed about being at. And that changed his life, and it changed my life, because where he wanted to go to was a training with a mentor who then became my mentor. And having him as a mentor changed my life. It's, the plaque back there is testament to that, right? And that was just one person, but that was kind of the beginning, and that's where I was. I saw that somebody can get over a fear, right? A fear that was holding them back from their blessings, like what was there waiting for them. And so we got along with that, and I started to just find clients here and there. It wasn't something that I was pushing hard, but it was just very organic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Communicating and meeting people at events. So I've had the opportunity to work with psychologists. I've worked with hypnotists, like I've mentioned. I've worked with people who, a lot of entrepreneurs, I would say 95% of the people that I work with own their own businesses. And the reason why we work together is because they're already at a point where they're already achieving things, right? They've achieved some level of success. They've accomplished many things. They know that they're working hard, right? They're putting in a lot of effort. They're putting in a lot of time. So what we do is we identify, okay, well, why do we feel the need to put all this work in? Why do we feel the need to overachieve? Why do we feel the need to overcompensate? Why do we feel the need to sacrifice and sometimes do all the work and not allow people to step in and help us? It's because of our own perception of how we received support in the past, or maybe some things haven't worked out. And so what I do is, again, we use Psyche, we use EFT, we use emotion code, we use body talk, we use theta healing, definitely guided meditations. Sometimes we even use dance, right? Or just simple movement. I like to use a lot of my health and life coaching, transformational experiences and exercises, and also adding that to the mix. So we are identifying like the definite chief aim, right? Going back to the Napoleon Hill principles, identifying what their definite chief aim is, assessing to see if it's in alignment with the divine will, if this is like God's desires, this as much as it's yours. Mm-hmm. And if it is, then the next steps is like, okay, well, who would we need to be, right? Not necessarily do, but who would we need to become in order to have these experiences? Because if we can identify the emotions and the beliefs of this future ideal, then we can create that in the present. And what's usually there that's holding us back from experiencing those things in the present, besides time, besides actually putting in the work, at the end of the day, action definitely needs to be taken. But a lot of time it's just resistance.
Yes. Right. Because change is, everyone says change is difficult. But, until you're really faced with major challenges, whether it be health, like myself, like, you know what? I need to change. It was a clear message that, sometimes the most dramatic things will happen in your life to say, you know what? It is time for change. Right. And we don't have to wait for that, though. We don't have to wait for that, because you already know if you're in alignment with what you're doing, just based on how do you feel, right? How do you feel? You getting up, going to work with a passion, or you getting up saying, "Oh my God, another day at work. Can't wait until Friday comes," right? It's Friday, thank goodness. So it's like, how are you, you know how you're feeling if you're working on purpose, on your purpose, right? And they say, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That's how you know you're working with with your passion and on purpose.
Mhm.
So, and most people want to be there, but they don't know how.
They don't know how, and they don't know that they already do it. Like the part that this is the aspect that is trippy is it's the fact that we are already manifesting, we are already co-creating, we're already generating a life from our mentality. We're already doing it. It's automatic. It's not a choice. This is how we are designed as spiritual beings having this human experience, right? This physical experience of ours is like a game. It's like a lesson. It's like a university. It's the best movie ever written, if you want to believe it to be so, right? So if that's true, if God is all that is, if you exist now, which technically means in some way, shape, or form you always have, you always will, and we get what we give, right? Then we need to start giving something different. And again, it starts with our feelings, it starts with our beliefs, it starts with all of that. And then being and having the conviction to stay in that wish fulfilled,
Right.
as you're building the life, right? You talked about it used to be so easy for us as kids, right? Because
Yeah.
we were pretending, right? So even just the word pretend, to tend before, right? It's you're preparing, right? You're
Yeah.
preparing for the future, right? You're tending to the vision that you're creating for yourself, right? So part of it is pretending, especially now in the attention economy, a lot of people are going through imposter syndrome, right? Imposter syndrome and pretending are two totally different things, right? One is being a specific person that you know you're not, right? For the sake of externally kind of pulling and forcing things to happen, versus pretending is that it's not serious. You're doing it to feel the sensations. You're doing it to feel the future experience, not faking the funk or telling people and forcing it to happen. You're literally just allowing yourself, you're giving your permission to yourself to be that version of yourself, right? As a form of meditation, as a form of really anchoring down the vision of what you have. And again, then comes the last step, which is what most people don't do, right? Because I like to break it down to 3 steps, right? And this is how I kind of we can definitely end with this when it comes to that, because I'd love to ask you questions. Is the first step for anybody, the best coaching processes, the best coaching programs in the world. I've invested tens of thousands into my own personal development and professional development, and I know you have as well. You have all the certifications and all the background to show for it, right? So the first part is having a systematic approach, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's having a systematic approach to solving the problem, right? Or creating a solution. And you can be creative about it, right? If you can go back and reflect on who you've been and how you've been and why you've been the way that you've been, you can see what parts of you worked the best, what didn't work. And say, okay, well, if I just did all the things that work and have me feel good and I feel like I motivate me and inspire me to keep going, then you'll find that by just doing those things, you're setting yourself up for success. So systematic approach, finding a mentor, finding a coach, that's first step, right? For anybody. Second step is having support, right? And having the support is like having people who believe in your vision, who have a belief in your dreams, who have a belief or support your goals, and physically like actually want to help you get there, right? It could be just a friend. It could be a community that you create for yourself or that you join, right? And then the last step is, again, it's what the 98% of people don't do, right? It's what the 2% does. So let's do what works. The 2% of people, they have accountability.
Yeah.
They have accountability partner. It might be a mastermind. Again, it might be in the form of a coach or a mentorship program or community. But we already know what we need to do. If I was to ask you right now, based on your goals, and this is for the person who's watching this, You can identify your goal. You can identify the purpose and the why to that goal. Ask yourself, why do I want this? Or why is this important? Why is this important? Seven times to get to the foundation of your desire. You're going to find that it's an emotion.
7 levels deep.
Right? It's 7 levels deep. You're going to realize that it's an emotion and an experience that you're after. And you can create that experience. And you can ask yourself, well, what's holding me back? Right? And you can do the same thing. What's holding me back? Well, why is this really holding me back? Or how important is this that I change this? And you can ask yourself 7 levels deep, why, and realize that it's an emotion or a state of being that's holding you back. So if you can do that now for yourself, right, by taking notes or by just asking yourself questions, and then somebody asks you, like, what's the one thing that you could be doing for yourself that you're currently not, that will make all the difference, right? It might be as simple as going for a walk every day. It might be as simple as just not eating junk food anymore. It can be as easy as just going to sleep earlier and make sure I get 7 to 8 hours of sleep, right? You know what you need to do. You know what needs to be done. So not having that accountability is detrimental, right? So when you're designing as an architect and a construction manager, the team is holding you accountable. The person who's paying for the project is holding you accountable. Time to build it is holding you accountable, right? So if you develop a systematic approach that holds you accountable, you're going to be better off than most people, right? And that's what you need, right? Those are the steps. So imagine you're at a river right now. You are where you're at, and all your visions are on the other side of that river, right? There's 3 steps to get over that. And again, it's a systematic approach. It's taking the right steps in the right order, having support from others or from experts or from a systematic or somebody else's system, somebody else's life experience, and then holding yourself accountable, showing up every day, doing the work, staying in that emotion of having that vision fulfilled, and dealing with whatever comes. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have adversity. So prepare for it. Prepare to deal with some things. Prepare to fail.
But there's always someone there they're never alone, right? They have to know that they're never alone. And that's number one. And I just think as an educator, we actually prepared our kids to do exactly that, if you really think about it. But now we're out in the real world on our own, and we're forgetting about, because truly, if you look back at as a child, when you went to preschool, just elementary school, right? There was a plan. You had to get up in the morning, have breakfast, go to school, come home, do homework. You were disciplined somewhat to follow certain rules to get you to grade 2, from grade 1 to grade 2. So we know how to do it. But here now, it's doing it for yourself without allowing the noise from the outside coming in.
That's
right. So when you just said, even if our goal is to make $100,000 a year, let's say, when you go to that 7 levels deep, it's really not the money that's going to make you feel good, not the actual money. It's what you're going to do with that money. So you said it comes down to emotions, right? So if you can do this work and ask yourself these questions, you will find that it's much easier to figure out what the next step is.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we're saying here is that, yes, you can be the architect of your life. You just must take that first step and believing that whatever you want is meant for you as well. Because, when we study this work, we realize that your desires are God's desires for you. We call it God, the universe, whatever you like to choose. But the reason why you want it is because you've been gifted that.
Yeah.
And you can have it. And you must believe. I mean, that's the believing is the number one key to, that turns the ignition on, right? It's believing that you can have it. So what do we need to do? We need to transform our belief system to really understand that we can have whatever it is that we want. But you got to do the work. The inner work has to be done.
Got to do the work. So
Got to do the work.
That's a call to action right there. What's the renovation? What is the new design you want for yourself? And then what are the resources you have available to you now to build that, right?
Yeah.
And then lay out the plan. What is it going to take? What do you actually have to do in order to get from where you are to where you want to be? It's so simple, but it's at the same time it eludes us because you said the noise. We're in this attention economy where we're literally being productized, right? Where people are paying for your eyeballs, they're paying for your attention. So now it was already a challenge. Now we have all these extra distractions, right?
Yes.
So focus on yourself, say yes to yourself, give yourself permission to pretend, give yourself permission to prepare, give yourself the permission to visualize a new reality for yourself.
Yes.
And also keep it real with yourself about where you're at, what's working for you, what's not working for you, what are the beliefs that you're holding on to that support you, and what are the beliefs that you're holding on to that are holding you back. Like that's the part that it just needs to be said again. You need to keep it real about where you're at. Keep it real.
Yes.
Assessment of where you are and what needs to happen. And then when you can do that, now you're clear about what needs to happen. Going and asking for support and help becomes easier because now you're very specific with what your ask is.
Right.
And it makes it easier for the person to serve you just as much as you're going to serve them. Right.
So beautiful. So we're gonna take it for a landing. So beautiful. What a nice way to end this. How can people get a hold of you, JJ, if they Reverend JJ Manuel?
They can, I would say the easiest way right now, because again, I'm making a lot of shifts even in how I'm presenting myself. If you follow me on Instagram, Josmar J Manuel, JOSMAR JMANUEL. My first name is Josmar. I go by Josmar Jose. There's where the JJ comes from.
Okay.
But you can email me with any questions about future programs, just as work in general, some free resources that I have ready for people, copies of different books that I've written. Email helpmejosmar, HELPMEJOSMAR @gmail.com.
And you can also go to his bio and he'll have the information there. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. This was a beautiful show. Thank you everyone for joining. And until next time, I'm your host, Giovanna Tardarone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchange.now.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.